to say that one has to formulate one's personal beliefs on the eighth dynamic, I don't think that's any different from the fact that one also has to formulate one's personal beliefs on the first dynamic, or on the sixth dynamic, or any of them. I think the fact that we have to formulate our own personal beliefs and communicate about them with other people and listen to other people's ideas about their personal beliefs, I think that is the ultimate answer. And what I'd like to suggest is that this very negation of the eighth dynamic which has occurred has at times led to things that I've experienced and seen, such as some Scientologists feeling that they were gods, or that they were gods in the making, that as soon as they reached a state of OT, they would be a god, and the idea that there was nothing else. And yet, none of us really know. I think that's something we could make as a pretty emphatic statement. None of us have any actual proof as to the existence of a supreme being, but my suggestion is that by negating the idea of such a possibility, and ideas that go along with that, such as the idea that there may be an overall purpose to the scheme of things which we're seeking to bring about, and some ancillary ideas that I'd like to mention in a moment, but by negating that, perhaps it was possible to set ourselves up in a position of being arrogant. And in this arrogancy, thinking that we, or the organization that we were part of, was ultimately right or absolutely right, could make no error, and therefore anything it did was not possible to be questioned or checked. And I feel that this is possibly one of the major reasons why people have become disillusioned with the tech. I think it's one of the major reasons why it was possible for all of the tragedy and sadness to occur which has gone down over the last few years. Because if one negates the idea of a supreme being, one is also negating the idea that there could be an overall purpose to the scheme of things. There are other ideas I said I'd mention. Amongst these are the idea that there is such a thing as good, or that there is such a thing as ultimate truth, that there is such a thing as rightness, as compared to wrongness or evil or falsity. While these are my personal ideas, I feel that there are such things. I feel that there is such a thing as justice, just as I feel there's such a thing as injustice. I think there is something to believe in, though, called justice. And I think there is something to believe in called good. And I do think it's possible that people will rise to a point of making truth known, whether it's by facing the truth themselves or by communicating it to others. But I think there is such a thing as truth. And I think it's possible for those things to become ascendant over their opposite counterparts of evil and so on. So what I think I'm trying to express, rather than talking about disillusionment, I'm hoping to point out that there is such a thing as hope. And there is such a thing as a future. But I also think it's up to us as individuals to bring it about. Technically, I think there's another cause of it, which I think is very intimately related to these things I've mentioned, and that is that I think when there's too much emphasis on outnesses or negative auditing, I think it has an adverse effect. This is not a new idea. It exists in various places throughout the technical materials, that you must audit in a positive direction, that a PC should be audited in an NARC manner, or in an NARC direction. I think it's far more important, though, than has been previously realized. I think not just in auditing, but also in daily conversations, there's a natural tendency to concentrate on outnesses, or faults, or things that are wrong and try to get rid of them, or handle them, or correct them. And I feel that it's far more appropriate and far more rewarding to concentrate on the positive aspects of things. Of course, one could say that if one expects good of somebody and then runs into something contrary to one's expectations, of course you're going to fixate on it. And yes, that's true. But try to minimize it to the momentary upset of finding out that the person wasn't what one hoped. And then try to remind oneself of the positive sides also. During processing, though, I think this is of tremendous importance to auditors and CSs, because I think that the amount of gain that people get from auditing can be vastly increased by increasing the amount of positive auditing going on. And I think we're going to be seeing quite a lot more of that in the future.
What is positive audit? That creative processing, or what kind of?
It's auditing. I was asked, what is positive auditing? It's auditing directed toward the positive aspects of life. You could audit somebody, as an example, on trying to run out times when he had difficulty remembering, as an example of negative auditing. It has some validity. Or, on the same example, you could audit somebody on times when he could remember well, or things that he could remember, things that he currently could recall. You could increase his, take the ability that he has to recall and increase it further. It's not that this is new, but I think in my observation it's something that has slid over the years further and further in the direction of too much concentration on negative and not enough concentration on what I'm describing as positive auditing. To sum this up, we all too have a tendency to try to expect people to be much higher than what they are. Because who is going to want to listen to somebody who has human foibles and weaknesses? People seem to want a leader or a guru. I know I have, and often still do. It would be very nice, it would be very convenient if you could plug in to somebody who could tell you the answer to an immediate question or situation. But it would be a lessening of one's responsibility. I used to pray to God when I was a kid at times, and used to ask him such questions like, you know, should I or should I not on a given subject? And without negating the idea of a God, I think that if there is a God, and if he was as wise as a God would have to be, he would leave that decision to the person asking it. So the ultimate message today really is that one has to look and make one's own decisions about all aspects of life, including the idea that although we feel that we have a tremendous amount of freedom in the independent field, and that's true, I think that in order to safeguard it, we have to make a consistent practice of evaluating our personal beliefs and decisions and deciding to make those decisions ourselves. So thank you.
Thank you very much, David, and that's our program for today. Thank you all very much for being here.
All right.